Hey all, this is Antom. We recently got done with the HFC Nintendothon and raising money for Mind, the UK-based mental health charity, and while I've been really busy editing HFC playthroughs for the past week or so, I just wanted to take some time out to thank you all personally for everything you did for us this year. The Nintendothon was a rousing success and basically surpassed every expectation we had. We even managed to beat the Sonicathon's total from last year, which I really didn't think would be possible. But if there's anything I've no problem doing, it's admitting I can be wrong, and I've never been happier to eat crow before than I am now. This video is going to detail how the marathon came to be, what some of the highlights were, what some of the problems we faced were, and a complete rundown of just who helped make this marathon a success. So without further ado, let's get to it. If I recall correctly, we roughly started planning the marathon in early February of 2015, and my thought this year was that I'd take a step back from things and allow someone more qualified or level-headed, rather, to help run things. Personally, and this is probably obvious, I don't handle stress well at all, and I consider nothing more stressful, or rather more important, than these charity marathons. This was evident during the Sonicathon, and I was probably at my worst there, which led to some of our former members deciding to leave and form their own group. As such, this year I decided to appoint Mexican Base Monkey as the head marathon organizer, since he has experience with charity marathons, and also keeps a cool and level head when it comes to planning, and just in general, really. My role was more of an advisory one this year, and I think it worked out for the best in the long run. That's just the conception of the whole thing, though. Actually planning the Nintendothon took a lot more work, but thankfully we had everyone from Brain Scratch, FTCR, HBOR, and a few people from outside these groups to help pitch games, fill out the schedule, and work out all the kinks before the big show itself. Working out what games would actually be in the marathon, however, was a project in and of itself. Obviously, you gotta have stuff like Super Mario Bros. To rep the Nintendo brand, but what about the other, less obvious franchises like Mega Man, which may not be Nintendo exclusive, but started life on a Nintendo platform? To get around this problem, we decided to be a bit more flexible and allow games that, like Mega Man, weren't representative of Nintendo as a whole, but still had a special place in the company's history. Sadly, though, we weren't able to include every franchise this time around, and stuff like Fire Emblem and a good number of longer games like the Mario & Luigi RPGs had to be cut just to save on time. On top of this, due to schedule changes, which is something you can't really avoid when a lot of the marathon participants have real-life responsibilities to attend to as well as, running games and such, a fair few games were either repeatedly shuffled around or had to be dropped altogether. While this was unavoidable, I would like to sincerely apologise for the constant schedule changes, and I hope it didn't affect your enjoyment of the marathon as a whole. We'll be taking criticism on board and working to find the best solution for next year's marathon, should there be one. And I think that basically covers everything in regards to how the Nintendothon came to be, and what the main issues behind the scenes were, so I'll spend some time now covering the people who helped make this marathon the success that it was, and some of the major highlights they helped create. First up, HFC. I'd be remiss if I didn't start with the main man himself, Mexican Base Monkey, and he really did a good job with creating the skeleton of the marathon, as it were. By this I mean the foundation of everything that the rest of us, and him himself of course, came together to help flesh out into the proper marathon. The schedule, the order, the co-coms, he basically helped with everything, and it wouldn't have been the Nintendothon as we know it now without him. What I respect most about MBM though, is that shortly before the marathon started, and I'm talking maybe a few weeks at the most, he received a promotion at his job, and this completely threw his schedule out of whack. This would be something that would completely destroy an anal retentive, schedule-orientated guy like myself. Instead, he took it in his stride and helped keep things going from behind the scenes, and even used some of his days off to run games like Donkey Kong 94 and Pokemon Vietnamese Crystal. This is a video to thank everyone who helped out, but as a personal aside, I want to thank you in particular, mate. You did a great job this year, and you're an essential part of what makes HFC work as well as it does. Thank you so much. Next up we have Volkamar, the runner for the Super Mario World playthrough. He was practicing for the event from day one, and by God did it show. An all exits run in Super Mario World is pretty tricky at the best of times, but to do it live is another story entirely. Not only that, but he was a constant positive force behind the scenes and always stepped up to help without a second's hesitation. A great example of hard work and determination, and I'm lucky to be able to work alongside him. Snake, or Samurai Snake, to use his proper title, ran a bunch of Mega Man games for us this year, and also took part in the Mega Man X race. Obviously, the amount of games is appreciated, but what I'm most impressed with is Snake's improvement in the commentary and hosting department, and I think this year was really his best. While it wasn't really anything that negatively affected previous marathons, it was clear that such an important event like the Sonic-a-thon made him nervous, and while he definitely did his best and provided everyone with some great runs to watch, it was still hard to watch a friend have to struggle like that. This year, however, even in spite of certain technical issues and such that he had to deal with, he was calmer, more upbeat, and generally a more confident person in general. As a personal side, I'm proud of you, mate. You repped HFC better than I could ever have hoped for. Next up, and I couldn't really cover HFC's involvement in this marathon without mentioning him, is Kato, our artist. He designed the Nintendothon logo, the stream background, and handled all the video thumbnails and also the initial schedule images. Kato has been a driving force behind HFC Star for a number of years now, and during charity marathons is always pushed to his limits when it comes to creating new artwork, yet not once have I ever heard him complain. A constant hard worker, a professional, and someone who I'm lucky enough to be able to call my friend, if you'll pardon the corniness of that statement. Ex-Gamer Richie similarly worked hard to keep the marathon running from behind the scenes, in particular with keeping the incentive totals up to date and making sure everything was in order. Frankly, I struggle with numbers, and he leapt at the chance to be able to take this off my hands when I asked for assistance. He's a good lad. Lastly, but by no means leastly, we have Flaming Claw, THD, and the other HFC moderators. Flame and the mods helped keep the livestream chat up to date with the ongoing donation totals, changes in the schedule, and help keep things running smoothly, basically. Sometimes a line of communication to the public is all that's needed, and whenever we were too busy either running games for the marathon or handling other matters, the mods were there to make sure everything that needed to happen happened. They're a very reliable and dependable bunch of guys. Due to his work, THD was unfortunately able to take a large role in this year's marathon, but he did take time out to be part of the Nintendothon Smash Bros tournament, and while he didn't win, he still gave us all a good show, and regardless of the marathon at all, he's worked really hard this year to be a larger part of the commentary side of things on the HFC channel, and I just wanted to say thank you. It's not quite Hellfire Comms without the Hell Dragon, after all. Moving on, I'd like to talk about the members of Brain Scratch Commentaries and their involvement in the Nintendothon. It goes without saying that, and especially in the past few years, that Brain Scratch has been an integral part of HFC surviving on YouTube and even getting back on its feet again after a long period of inactivity. And during these marathons, they've constantly been a major factor behind their successes. I'm going to spend a short while talking about each of the members in turn. Firstly, we have Johnny. I'll cut right to the chase here. He took on more than he expected to, did more than his fair share of work, and still did it all with a smile on his face and to the best of his ability. Whether it be Super Mario Bros., the 2D Metroids, A Link Between Worlds, the fantastic 100% run of Super Mario Sunshine, or anything else in between, he was a consummate professional, and an example of the kind of hard-working ethic that I respect but sadly cannot emulate. We appreciate all the hard work that he did for the Nintendothon, but we do not take it for granted, simply because it's for a charitable cause. He's a friend, not a machine after all. Thank you, Johnny, for everything you did. Ted also did a lot of work during the marathon, running 2 of the longer games of the whole thing. Besides Paper Mario, the sole RPG of the marathon, which was done in 4 3 to 4 hour blocks or so, there were also Pikmin's 1 and 3, Kirby Triple Deluxe, and the 10-hour Hyrule Warriors run. Nothing much else to say except he did a damn good job, and hopefully we'll be able to repeat the process should we do another marathon next year. Lewis's contribution to the marathon was the Ninja Gaiden run, which, while sadly but understandably when unfinished, was still entertaining and brought about a lot of laughs from just how stupidly hard the game can be sometimes. Lastly, while Ryan didn't run any of the games himself, he was co-commentator for a lot of runs, both Brain Scratch related and otherwise, and he was always willing to pitch in when the schedule changed, and boy did it ever change, and someone needed help reading donations and such. Sometimes that's just as important as running the games themselves. Brain Scratch, as always, gave 110% this year, and we really appreciate all their hard work. Thank you very much. Next up, I'd like to address the members of FTCR and how they made the Nintendothon a positive project to be a part of. Firstly, FTA's contributions. While Gareth ran a game or two on his own with a co-commentator, mind you, it was the mini-marathon of 5 to 6 retro games, one after the other, that impressed me the most. Together with TJ, who I'll be addressing shortly, they did an entire day of classic NES and Super Nintendo games, and basically had the whole day to themselves. It was really entertaining and a nice change of pace for the marathon. FTA's wife Kerry even managed to get in on the retro action and did a really fun run of Aladdin for us. The Super Nintendo version, mind you. We don't have any of that Mega Drive nonsense here in our Nintendothon. And then we have Sonic Movies. Smoothies. He not only created the Nintendothon bumper that you see in front of and occasionally at the end of every stream or YouTube upload, but he also ran two of the most entertaining games of the marathon for us, Banjo-Kazooie and Star Fox Adventures. These turned out to be much better than I could have hoped for, and while every member of FTCR helped make the streams great, Stephen in particular deserves credit for running the games as well as he did. It was efficient, on point, and most importantly, fun to watch. Even when he wasn't running games, you could usually find him doing co-commentary for a number of FTCR runs. Thank you for everything you did this year, mate. Moving on, next up we have Mia, who turned out to be the potential MVP of the Nintendothon. As I addressed at the start of this whole thing, we lost a few HFC members last year, and with them went certain technical skills, like the ability to create websites to manage and track incentives, update the schedule on the fly, and so on. As such, we went into the Nintendothon with a kind of bare-bones approach to things, and ended up having to keep track of incentives via notepad documents and the like. This frankly was a nightmare, as you can probably imagine, but thankfully Mia took it upon herself to create a microsite for the marathon within the short span of a couple of days or so, and by day 4 we were once again on top of things and keeping both the incentives tracker and the schedule up to date with very little effort. In addition to this, Mia also ran a few games and helped out immensely with co-commentary on a number of other games. Thank you, Mia. Hopefully we can work together again next year. Lastly, we have the FTCR co-com team of TJ, Chris, Aaron, and Kyoko. I mentioned TJ first because while everyone in the co-com team did an equal amount of work, he brought his own brand of commentary to the marathon, and it really wouldn't have been the same without his love of air horns, Shrek, and other meme-tacular wonderful nonsense. Chris and Aaron helped out with the big Banjo and Star Fox streams, as did Kyoko, but Kyoko also took part in the Mario Kart 8 tourney, and did a great job there too. All in all, Find the Computer Room did a lot of great work this year, and really helped make the Nintendothon the success that it was. Thank you all. Next up we have the lads from H-Ball, Month, Striker, and World. They've always been a staple of these charity marathons of ours, and the tech required to make their runs possible honestly blows my mind, but they pulled off some fantastic 100% runs of both the first and second Metroid Prime games, and had time permitted it, I'm sure they would have completed the trilogy and did Metroid Prime 3 as well. I was lucky enough to be the co-commentator for the first half of Prime 2, and I had a fantastic time. Thanks for everything, guys. The last group of people I want to talk about are only partially affiliated with any of the groups I've already addressed, but their contributions are no less important and they are all deserving of recognition. First up we have Donny, the ever-present Minister of Memes. Donny always puts his best foot forward when it comes to these charity events. It doesn't matter that he isn't an expert when it comes to any of the games he runs, or any kind of irrelevant stuff like that. Donny is a sweetheart, and he really cares about what he does. Regardless of having to put up with anal retentive people like myself, he gets the job done, entertains people, and then goes out to continue writing articles and other such things for the various sites he frequents. He's a hard-working lad, and everyone involved in the marathon thanks him for his involvement this year. We also had a few new faces this year on co-com duty, including Johnny's co-host Nathan, the Sonic Stadium's Hero of Legend, Game Explain's Derek, as well as the great Clement, and Ted's co-host Catherine. All of these people were really brought in at the last second, but did a great job of keeping people up to date with the donation totals, as well as just being entertaining co-commentators in their own rights. We were also joined by one of the HFC community regulars, Riot, who thrashed as silly in the Smash Bros tourney and took home the gold, which was expected but fun to watch all the same. While it would be fair to say that some people put in more time than others, it's clear that the Nintendothon was a group effort and we were all in this together and made it work together. Some elements didn't gel all that well, there were schedule issues, tensions ran high at times, but at the end of the day, the end result speaks for itself. We raised a lot of money for the cause, and in the end, that's the main thing. In my opinion, from both the perspective of both personal and lucrative results, I feel this was the best marathon to date. Exciting, rewarding, and very, very gratifying. And of course, we couldn't have done it without you guys sitting here listening to me waffle on. Whether you donated, helped to spread the word, or just tuned in to watch a stream or two, you went above and beyond this year, and we appreciate all the time you spent helping us to get this thing off the ground. Thank you. That's all for now, folks. We're still deciding on a topic for next year, but I'll be sure to keep you posted on the results. Thank you all so much, and have a great day. Bye for now.